Something shifts when you stop reaching, not in a performed, strategic, carefully calibrated way, not the pulling back that is still a form of reaching, still oriented toward the avoidance response, still organized around the hope that the withdrawal will produce the approach, but the genuine pulling back, the kind that happens when the reaching has finally, honestly, exhausted itself, when the energy that was continuously directed outward towards someone who is not meeting it has simply, without drama, run out. This pulling back is not a technique, it is a consequence, the natural result of someone who has been giving more than was being returned for long enough that the giving has depleted the reserve it was drawing from. The pulling back is not chosen in the strategic sense, it is arrived at through the accumulated weight of unreciprocated investment, through the specific exhaustion of someone who has been carrying more than their share, through the honest reckoning of a person who has finally allowed themselves to feel the full cost of the dynamic rather than managing the cost beneath the threshold of conscious acknowledgement. And when it arrives, when the pulling back is genuine, something happens in the avoidant that the continuous reaching never produced. The avoidance system, as examined throughout these pieces, is calibrated around the management of intimacy pressure. The reaching generates the pressure. The presence of the pressure activates the management. The management produces the distance. This is the cycle-familiar, self-reinforcing, seemingly inevitable from the inside of it. The pulling back interrupts the cycle at its source. Not by addressing the avoidance fear directly the genuine pulling back is not about the avoidant at all, but by removing the input that the cycle requires to continue. The intimacy pressure that the reaching generated is no longer generated. The management that the pressure activated has nothing to manage. The system that was continuously running against the force of your orientation toward the avoidant finds itself suddenly running against nothing. And a system running against nothing does not simply rest. It notices the absence of what it was running against. The noticing is not immediate. The avoidant's first experience of your genuine pulling back is often, as examined in the piece on the relief period, something that resembles the relief their system has always associated with reduced intimacy pressure. The reaching has stopped, the pressure is lower, the equilibrium that the system was designed to maintain has been restored, but the equilibrium feels different this time. There is something in it that the previous periods of distance did not contain, a quality that the relief does not fully account for, a specific, slightly wrong texture to the stillness that the avoidance monitoring system, which has been calibrated on the specific frequency of your presence for however long the connection has existed, registers as something other than simple peace. It registers as absence, your specific, irreplaceable, this person only absence. And absence, the avoidance system is beginning to discover, is not the same as distance. Distance is the managed space between two people who are still in the dynamic. Absence is the removal of one of the dynamic's participants. The dynamic cannot continue without both participants. And the dynamic ending, the specific, particular dynamic that existed between you and the avoidant, with all its history and its texture and its specific quality of being about the two of you rather than about some generic relational pattern, is a different kind of loss than the avoidance system was prepared for. This is when the seeing begins. The seeing of your value is not, as it might appear from the outside, the sudden recognition of something that was not previously present in the avoidance awareness. Your value was always there. The avoidance perception was always accurate enough to register it. The specific quality of what you brought, the depth, the consistency, the genuine investment, the particular way of being present that was unlike anyone else's way of being present, was registered in the avoidance interior throughout the connection. The problem was never the seeing. The problem was the wait. While you were present and reaching and consistently available, your value was present in the avoidance interior alongside the intimacy pressure that your presence generated. The two arrived together, the specific richness of you and the specific threat of your closeness. And the threat was louder than the richness. Not because the richness was insufficient, because the threat was operating at the level where the avoidant's most primary, most deeply embedded responses live, and the richness was operating at the level where the responses that require more sophisticated processing live, and the primary responses consistently outrun the sophisticated ones in the avoidant's interior. The pulling back separates what the presence had entangled. The threat deactivates when the pressure deactivates, and with the threat gone, with the intimacy pressure no longer arriving alongside the awareness of your value, the value becomes the primary thing, the only thing. The richness, no longer competing with the alarm, expands to fill the space the alarm was occupying. And the avoidant, experiencing the richness without the alarm for perhaps the first time in the connection's history, discovers what the alarm was preventing them from fully feeling, how much you actually meant. The seeing arrives in the specific, ordinary moments that the previous pieces have examined. The reaching toward a reaction to share with you, the quality of evenings that have changed texture, the involuntary comparison of other people against the specific standard you set. But it arrives now with a clarity that was not previously available, unclouded by the management, uncompeted with by the alarm, present in its full dimension, rather than the reduced dimension that the pressure monitoring always produced. And with the clarity comes something that the avoidance system does not know how to efficiently process. Regret, not the vague, manageable regret of a loss that was expected and prepared for. The specific personal, this person and what they offered regret of someone who is finally, without the distortion of the fear, seeing the full dimension of what the pulling back has made unavailable. The seeing of your value in this clarity is not comfortable for the avoidant. It is not the pleasant recognition of something appreciated and held. It is the painful recognition of something that was not adequately appreciated while it was holdable, arriving now in the full weight of its actual significance at the precise moment when the holding is no longer available. What you need to understand about this process, about the seeing that your pulling back eventually produces, is both its reality and its limitations. Its reality is genuine. The avoidant is not performing the recognition of your value. They are not going through the motions of missing you in a calculated way designed to produce your return. The seeing is real. The regret is real. The specific, personal, interior experience of understanding what the pulling back has made clear about what was present and what is now absent. This is as real as anything in the avoidance emotional experience, which means it is real in the place where the real things live, which is the interior, which is not visible and is not expressed and is carried alone in the specific way that all the avoidance most significant feelings are carried. Its limitation is equally genuine. Seeing your value, even with perfect clarity, does not automatically produce the capacity to express it. The seeing happens in the interior. The expression requires the movement from interior to exterior that the avoidance fear has been obstructing throughout the entire connection. The fear does not dissolve because the clarity of what was lost has arrived. The fear is structural. It requires structural work to address. And the seeing, however genuine, is not that work. The avoidant who sees your value with new clarity in the aftermath of your pulling back is not automatically the avoidant who has become capable of the sustained, expressed, consistently demonstrated love that the connection always required. They are the avoidant who understands, more fully than they did before, what they failed to give and what that failure cost. The understanding is the beginning of the possibility of change. It is not the change itself. Your pulling back is not a strategy for making them see your value. Your value exists independently of whether they see it. It was present throughout the connection, in every moment of genuine investment, every act of patient showing up, every instance of caring that was offered without adequate return. Your value was not contingent on their recognition of it. It did not require their seeing to be real. The pulling back is not for them, it is for you. It is the return of the energy that was directed outward towards someone who was not adequately meeting it. the reclamation of the attention and the investment and the specific, finite, irreplaceable resource of your emotional availability for the things and the people and the life that will receive it with the fullness it deserves. If the avoidant sees your value in the aftermath of the pulling back, the seeing is theirs. It is their reckoning with their own failure to adequately receive what you are offering. It belongs to their interior, and it will produce whatever it produces in them, on their timeline, through their process. Your pulling back is the beginning of something else entirely, the beginning of the life that has been waiting, on the other side of the reaching, on the other side of the hoping, on the other side of the continuous, exhausting, finally finished outward orientation towards someone who is now, too late and in the private chambers of their own regret, finally, completely, seeing what was always, obviously, entirely there.